Hey everyone, Theo here. This is my artist review of the Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 FE. First of all, a disclaimer, this is not a review unit and this is not a sponsored video. I had purchased this tablet for the purpose of making this review. So if you guys have the intention to buy this tablet after watching my review, consider supporting my YouTube channel by making your purchase through the affiliate links that I have for you in the video description below. There are actually two sizes available. The Tab S10 FE comes with a 10.9-inch LCD and the FE Plus comes with a 13.1-inch LCD. So on the high side, I probably should have purchased the 13.1-inch because this is actually a new size. This is larger compared to the 12.4-inch from the previous Tab S9 FE Plus. Whereas the 10.9-inch is still the same 10.9-inch from the previous model. Alright, as usual, let me give you the bottom line up front. So this is a really well-made tablet. It's beautiful. It looks and feels premium. The display is bright, vibrant, and sharp, and this is a laminated display, and the refresh rate is up to 90 Hz. So the animation for pan, zoom, and rotate and scrolling web pages, it's really smooth. And the overall performance of this tablet is also smooth and lag-free. Samsung is using the Exynos 1580 processor, and the main limitation with this tablet in terms of performance is don't expect to play games at the highest graphics settings and at the highest frame rate. Battery life is good, up to 13 hours with auto brightness. This tablet has face unlock, auto brightness, and fingerprint unlock. And this 10.9-inch size is actually a really good size for a digital sketch pad because it's really portable. It's 497 grams, and you can handle this very easily in one hand compared to the larger 13.1-inch display. The Samsung S Pen is included, and this pen uses Wacom EMR technology, so the pen performance is good. It has good support for pressure sensitivity and tilt sensitivity, and palm rejection works really well. And this pen is great for taking notes. The one downside to this pen is, for some reason, with this particular pen that I'm using, it actually has the tendency to draw thicker than thinner lines. You can still draw thin lines like this. You just have to reduce the brush size, and you can still draw thick lines like this, no problem. It's just that when I compare this pen with other Wacom EMR pens, this pen would draw thicker lines. But overall, the drawing experience with this pen on this tablet, it's wonderful. The soft pen tip has some resistance on the glossy display, so this actually gives you a bit more control over the pen. Downsides: I do not like how glossy and reflective this display is, but you can actually buy the original Samsung anti-reflective screen protector to put on this tablet. Other downsides are mostly limitations because this tablet does not have as many features compared to the more expensive Samsung Galaxy tablets. For example, there are only 2 speakers instead of 4 speakers, but the audio quality, by the way, is really good. The audio is loud, clear, and has good surround. USB-C port only has USB 2 transfer speeds, and the USB-C port cannot output video. And this is LCD, this is not an OLED, but a good LCD can still look great, and this is a great looking LCD. One feature that this tablet has that the more expensive tablet does not is this actually has a micro SD card slot. Oh, this tablet actually has water resistance. It has IP68 rating, so a little water is not going to kill the tablet. By the way, the fingerprint unlock works really fast. So overall, I would say this is really good value for money if you do not want to spend more to buy the more expensive Samsung tablets. This is a good upgrade over the previous model, the Tab S9 FE and the FE Plus, because now you can buy this tablet with 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, whereas for the previous model you can only get 6 and 8 gigs. But that's not to say that you should upgrade from the Tab S9 FE to this tablet because, well, if your previous tablet is still working, I don't feel like you should sell it just to buy a new tablet that does the same thing as your previous tablet. So if you are looking to buy a tablet for drawing or note-taking, this is a good one that I can recommend because the pen performance is really good. Alright, on to the full review. Let's take a look at the items included in the box. The packaging box is quite thin, which is to say that you won't be getting any charger inside. So in the box you will find a tablet, of course, quick start guide, USB-C to USB-C charging cable, SIM ejector, and the Samsung S Pen. Let's take a closer look at this design, which looks very similar to the Samsung Galaxy Tab S series tablets that were released before from Tab S7, 8, 9, and 10. We still have the rounded corners for the body and display, and the bezels are quite thin and uniform on all four sides. The sides are still flat, and on this side with the buttons for volume control and power and fingerprint scanner, you can attach the Samsung S Pen magnetically. On this side, which is the left side near the power button, there is one speaker and there is another one on the other side. The speaker is now using this single slit design instead of the multiple holes, and the audio quality is pretty good. The audio is loud, clear, and has good surround. And here is the tray for the microSD card and SIM. The tablet I have here only has Wi-Fi, and if you want to make phone calls or SMS directly using your tablet, you can get the 5G model. At the bottom are the pogo pin connectors. So these are for the keyboard accessories. And with this new model, it's actually thinner. This is 6mm versus the 6.5mm with the Samsung Tab S10 FE. And here we have the USB-C charging port. The transfer speed for this is USB 2, and this cannot output video. Now this supports 45-watt fast charger, but you need to use a compatible charger and compatible cable. The back has a clean design, and this is matte textured metal. There is one 30-megapixel camera, and notice there is no flash. These are antenna lines, if I'm not wrong, and they go to the side, and this design is repeated on the other side as well. The overall design looks beautiful, and the fingerprint scanner works really fast. You don't even need to press down the power button. And here at the front is a 12-megapixel camera in landscape orientation, and this can be used for face unlock, but it's not the secure type. This tablet does support auto brightness. Since I do not have the 13.1-inch model, I'm using this Lenovo Idea Tab Pro with a 12.7-inch display as a stand-in to compare the size. So 10.9-inch is actually a big tablet. Some people may consider 10.9-inch to be a small tablet, but it's actually a big tablet. It's just that the bigger tablets are bigger. So this is how big the tablet is when compared to A5 size paper or this sketchbook that I have here. So you can see the display is taller by this much and wider by this much. Now on the larger tablet, the display is noticeably bigger and also wider. So the advantages of having a larger display is you can use this in split screen mode more effectively. On a larger display, you can have two apps open side by side, and the apps will still look quite big. So let me place this A5 size sketchbook on top of the app, and you can see the width of the app is almost the width of the A5 sketchbook. So this is still the smaller 12.7-inch display versus the 13.1-inch display, which is slightly bigger. Another advantage is you can use this display as a wireless external display more effectively due to the larger size. And the next advantage is when you are drawing, the drawing apps you can use can have many UI elements on the display, and you will still get a good amount of space left over for drawing. On the smaller display, you can still use split screen mode. It's just that the apps will appear to be smaller. So if you know you're going to use split screen mode quite often, go for the larger display. Another thing to note is for drawing purposes, the smaller display will work better with apps with minimal user interface elements. For example, with concepts, you get this tool wheel and the layers palette, and you can minimize or hide this tool to get more drawing space. If you use drawing apps with more UI elements such as Clip Studio Paint, and you have palettes on the left and right, the drawing area that's left over is going to be quite small, but still usable, I would say. Let me show you another app, which is Medibank Paint. I actually use Medibank Paint on my Android tablets quite often. So with this app, you can actually press the tools here to hide the palettes easily. So you can actually get a lot more canvas space back for drawing easily. And even with the palette on the side here, let me just put this palette on the side here. This is still, I would say, a good amount of space. This is the A5 size sketchbook again. So this is smaller, slightly smaller than A5 size. So this is actually still a good amount of space for drawing. But if your main drawing apps are Clip Studio Paint and Krita, go with the larger tablet. What I like about this 10.9-inch tablet is this is smaller and more compact, and so this is easier to handle. So this works great as a portable digital sketch pad. And the weight is 497 grams, which is actually not considered that heavy for a 10.9-inch tablet. So I can hold this in one hand like this or like this for long periods of time without feeling discomfort. I would consider tablets that are 12 inches or larger to be tabletop tablets. So to use those tablets more comfortably in hand, it's best to set those tablets down on some sort of surface, on the table or on the tablet stand, especially when you're writing or drawing, because those tablets are much heavier. For example, with the 13.1-inch Samsung Tab S10 FE Plus, the weight is 664 grams, so that is at least 160 grams heavier compared to the 10.9-inch model. And this, by the way, is still the Lenovo tablet. And also, when you install or put a case onto the tablet, onto the bigger tablet, it's going to be even heavier because the tablet case is heavier than the tablet case of the smaller tablet. Last thing I want to mention about the design is there is IP68 rating. So this tablet actually has some water resistance, and this feature is quite rare with Android tablets. Let's talk about this display, which is a 10.9-inch LCD with 90 Hz refresh rate. So the animation for pan, zoom, rotate, maximize and minimize is pretty smooth, and this is noticeably smoother compared to the base model iPad. And as I minimize, you can see the minimize animation, it's pretty smooth, very nice. The resolution is 2304 by 1440 for the 10.9-inch model, and it's 2880 by 1800 for the larger 13.1-inch FE Plus model. So which display size to get really depends on which you prefer for the type of work you do and also how much money you want to spend. The PPI for this and the larger tablet is 249 and 259 respectively, so the visuals are really sharp with no pixelation even when you look close. Brightness for this display is up to 600 nits, which is more than sufficient for bright indoor use, and there is high brightness mode for outdoor use up to 800 nits, which I feel is still not quite enough if you're using the tablet directly under the sun. Anyway, as long as you're not using the tablet directly under the sun, you can get the best visual quality. And the one thing I don't like about this display is this is too reflective because there is no anti-reflective coating. Now Samsung actually does sell the anti-reflective screen protector for this and also for the larger tablet. So if you don't like how distracting the reflections are, you can consider buying the anti-reflective screen protector, which is actually very effective because I have that on my phone and it is so good. For color mode, you can choose between vivid and natural. I'm actually just using natural because it looks, well, more natural. Or you can go with vivid, and here you can adjust the white balance as well, and you can adjust the vividness of the colors. Viewing angles are good. There is minimal or no color shift when viewing the tablet from extreme angles. Now, this may not be an OLED display, but I would say the blacks are still kind of black. Yeah, it's still kind of black. But if you are viewing this tablet in a room where it's not as bright, you may see some IPS glow. There's the IPS glow that I'm talking about, which is more obvious when you view the tablet from an angle. But if you view the tablet up front, face on like this, it's actually not that obvious, but you can still see it. But to me, it's not a big deal. A good LCD can still look great, and this is a great looking LCD, so I don't have major complaints for this display except that it's too glossy and reflective. Oh, did I mention that the aspect ratio is 16:10, and this is a good aspect ratio for watching videos that are 16:9. So when watching videos, you get small black bars at the top and at the bottom, or you can zoom in to just feel the screen if you want to. Let's talk about the OS and some features. So this tablet is using Samsung One UI on top of Android 15. Samsung One UI has many useful features. There is the dock, recent apps, there is tap to sleep, tap to wake, fingerprint unlock works really fast, each panel where you can add more apps as shortcuts. There is split screen mode, so you can just let's drag Play Store to the side here, and you can have split screen mode. There is Samsung DeX. With Samsung DeX, you get the desktop UI with the apps below or apps hidden here, and you have the Android shortcuts here, and you can open your windows as floating windows and rearrange them however you like. Now, Samsung DeX unfortunately can only work on this tablet display. You cannot output Samsung DeX through the USB-C port to an external display because the USB-C does not output video. If you use Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, there is direct integration with Samsung File Management System. And of course, there is official support for Google Play Store. Samsung S Pen has a few features that you may want to check out, and this includes writing into text boxes. And this tablet is going to get 7 years of OS and security updates. Let's talk about the performance. So this tablet is using the Exynos 1580 processor, and it can be used for some light gaming. So this game is Genshin Impact, and as I run around, I can actually see some frame drops occasionally. And right now the graphics settings that I'm using is actually set at lowest. So this is the default settings for this tablet. Now with more powerful Samsung tablets, the default graphics settings is either medium or high. But on this tablet it's low, and even at the low graphics settings, as I run around, sometimes I can see the frame drops. So you can play some games, but don't expect to play games at the highest graphics settings. As for multitasking, it works fine. So this tablet that I purchased has 12 gigs of RAM. You can buy the Tab S10 FE with either 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, and if you have more budget, I recommend you get 12 gigs of RAM. So with more RAM, you can hold more apps in memory without having the apps to reload. So having more RAM is obviously better. With more RAM, you can create more layers with your drawing app. So for example, with Infinity Painter, if I create a canvas of A3 size at 300 dpi, I can get 95 layers. So the main limitation with this tablet in terms of performance would be with gaming. If you are just using the tablet for browsing the web, checking social media, watching videos, doing office type work, taking notes, drawing, all those tasks will be very smooth. Let's talk about the Samsung S Pen, which is included with the purchase. So this pen uses Wacom EMR. And because this pen uses Wacom EMR, you can use other Wacom EMR pens with the tablet as well. Wacom EMR supports up to 4,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, and there is tilt sensitivity as well. Palm rejection works flawlessly. So if I try to draw with my finger, in this case, you can see it just moves the canvas, and I can place my palm on the display and write and draw, and this will not introduce any straight strokes. This pen has one side button which can be customizable depending on the note-taking or drawing app you use, and the pen has no eraser at the back. Design of this pen is almost cylindrical except for this flat side here. The flat side of the pen allows you to attach the pen magnetically to the side of the tablet or to the back of the tablet. And if you want to store the pen together with the tablet and use a case, get a case that can go over the pen. One thing I really like about the Samsung S Pen versus pens from other companies is this comes with a soft tip. So when writing or drawing, there is actually some resistance on the glossy display. So this pen tip is not that slippery on this display. And also when you are writing or drawing, as you put the pen on the glass, there is no tapping sound, which is very nice. And note that this is a laminated display. So there is almost no gap between the line and the pen tip when you're writing or drawing. So when writing or drawing, it looks like the line is appearing directly beneath the pen tip. Now notice as I press down, you can see the soft tip deform slightly. Now if the pen tip gets worn out, you can just replace the pen tip. Pen tip replacements are actually inexpensive and easy to find. Having a customizable side button is quite convenient. So for this particular app that I'm using, I can use the side button to erase. This pen does not use Bluetooth, so you do not have to pair this pen with the tablet to use the pen with the tablet. Pen latency will vary depending on which app you use. So for example, with this app, Medibank Paint, you can see the line chasing the pen tip. So there is some pen latency. However, if I switch over to using this app Concepts, I'm drawing the line at the same speed as before, and you can see the gap as the line is chasing the pen tip is very small, almost not noticeable. Latency performance for writing is really good. However, as mentioned earlier, the latency performance will vary depending on which app you use. If you want to learn more about taking notes with this tablet, check out my other review where I talk specifically about handwriting and note-taking with the Tab S10 FE. The link will be in the video description below. Time for the line test, and the app that I'm using is Medibank Paint. So this is how thick the brush is. Let's draw some slow diagonal lines to test for initial activation force and diagonal line wobble. The lines look straight enough to me. There is slight wobble, but this is probably from my hand. Let's draw with the help of a straight edge. And this is very straight. And for some reason, when I draw with a straight edge, the lines will always be thicker. Yep, so this is as straight as it can be. One thing I noticed about this pen is it seems to have a tendency to draw thicker lines. So this can actually still be thinner, because if I switch over to using the Wacom AL style EMR, you can see this line is much thinner, and I'm still using the same brush. This is the Wacom 1 standard pen. Okay, this has a tendency to draw thicker lines as well. This is the Wacom 1 pen with one side button. Yeah, this can draw much thinner lines. Even though these four pens all use Wacom EMR, there is some differences with the pressure performance. Now, even with the Samsung S Pen, if you swap out the soft tip with a plastic tip, the pressure performance may differ as well. If you want to get the best pressure performance out of this pen, you can change the pen tip, or you can use a drawing app that lets you adjust the pressure curve. For example, with Clip Studio Paint, you can actually adjust the pressure curve. Now for this line, you can see it's quite thin, but it's not as thin as it can be. So if I go into the manual, pen pressure settings, and adjust the pressure curve like this, so that you can draw thinner lines easily and still draw thicker lines easily. Now I will draw the same thing again. And you can see the difference is very obvious. Now I can draw much thinner lines, and for the thick line, I can still draw it really thick. Since you cannot adjust the pressure curve with mini bank paint, to draw thinner lines you have to adjust the brush size manually. Let's take a look at tapered strokes, and this is really good. Lines are able to taper smoothly and sharply, and you can see the stroke actually starts thin, becomes thick, and then becomes thin again. So if you want to use this for cross-hatching or hatching, this works great. Line transition from thin to thick and back to thin. This looks okay. Next, let's see if we can maintain consistent line width by maintaining consistent pressure, and we can do so quite easily. Let's draw some dots. Let's draw some dots with heavy pressure. Next is the cursor misalignment test, which is usually for pen displays. So I will draw separate lines and join the lines together to see if the lines will overshoot or leave gaps. So you can see one gap here, but that's due to human error. Now usually for tablets, there should not be any cursor misalignment problem. You can see one line overshoot there, but that's human error. So as I draw these two boxes, I can also see the line is actually thicker than usual, thicker than what I want. Next, let's look at tilt sensitivity, and the app that I'm using is Infinite Painter. So I'm holding the pen vertically, drawing with minimal pressure, and now drawing with thicker pressure, and now I tilt the pen on the side to get the broad strokes. So with this brush, which is the dry inker brush, I can get thin and thick and extra broad strokes. And I'm happy to say that the tilt effect or tilt sensitivity, it works very consistently, more so compared to other tablets and pens that I have tested. Concepts is another app that supports tilt. So we have thin and thick, and we have tilt. The transition is not as smooth compared to Infinite Painter or Sketchbook, but this is actually normal for concepts. This app is Krita. So one of the limitations with this 10.9-inch display is apps with a lot of user interface elements are not going to work as well because the UI will take up a lot of space. And also when you're scrolling through brushes or layers, you have to scroll a lot. This is the Pencil 5 tilted brush. So as I change the direction of the pen, you can see the brush cursor will actually follow the direction of the pen. So let's draw a circle like this. Looks okay. A thin horizontal line, a broad horizontal line, a broad vertical line, a thin vertical line. Let's have the darker shade on the right side and on the left side. So tilt actually works fine with Krita. Let's sketch something very quickly while I talk more about the drawing experience. So the app that I'm using here is Mini Bank Paint. And I cannot tweak the pressure curve with this app because there is no feature. This app does not have the feature that lets you tweak the pressure curve. So to draw thinner lines, I will have to choose a thinner brush. So I'm trying to draw Tokyo Station. And I like to use my tablets for sketching. More specifically, I like urban sketching, so I enjoy sketching outdoors. Now this tablet can be used for sketching outdoors. It's just that the brightness may not be high enough for use under direct sunlight. But right now, I'm in my room, brightness is just 25%. So this tablet can get really bright. The display can get really bright. I like to use this app for testing because this app does not provide any software correction to the lines. So the lines that you see would be the quality of the pen. It will come from the quality of the pen. 10.9 inch is actually not a small tablet, it's a big tablet. It's just that 13.1 inch is bigger, that's all. So the nice thing about this size is it works really well as a portable digital sketchpad. It is not too big, so it's very easy to bring around. It's very easy to handle with one hand. So right now I actually have the tablet on my tablet stand for drawing, but if I want to, I can actually hold the tablet and just draw with the tablet in hand. A 13.1 inch tablet is going to be noticeably bigger. So I guess with the 13 inch, you don't have to zoom in and out as much. But even for the 10.9 inch, I can still have my palette by the side and still have a good amount of space for drawing. The pen performance is actually pretty good. One thing I really like about the Samsung S Pen is the soft tip. So when you are drawing, there is actually some resistance which gives you more control over the pen when drawing. So the pen actually does not glide on the glass that smoothly. It's smooth, but it's not slippery. So that is actually one huge selling point of the Samsung S Pen versus other pens from other companies. For this app, the side button actually works as the eyedropper, which is quite irritating. And there is no way to change the side button or customize the side button shortcut with this app. So this pen is actually quite sensitive. I don't want you to have the impression that this pen is not sensitive because it has the tendency to draw thicker lines. But the thing is, this pen is very sensitive, so you can still draw thin and thick lines very easily. The app that you use will be important if you need more precise pressure performance. For example, here I can just draw thin lines or broad strokes just for coloring. So when I'm drawing the buildings in the background, I can just draw them with very thin lines like this. I'm barely glancing the pen tip on the display. So the initial activation force is actually very minimal. And if I want to get thicker lines, I just draw the thicker lines like that. So the pen is actually, the lines you can get from this pen is actually quite expressive. I just switched over to using the Wacom One standard pen with 2 buttons, and the second button actually works as an eraser. So I can use this second button to erase, like this. And the first button is still the eyedropper button. Palm rejection works really well. Sometimes I would rest my palm on the display, sometimes I would rest my pinky finger on the display. And there are no issues with palm rejection. Some of the common problems with palm rejection, if palm rejection is not working well, is when drawing, sometimes the canvas may zoom in or zoom to some strange place. Or sometimes when you are drawing, the undo gesture may happen. But for this app or this tablet, I do not experience those issues. Time to color this sketch. I am not very precise with coloring, as in I don't mind having the color spill out of the lines. My workflow is pretty smooth on this tablet. There are no surprises. If you're deciding whether to buy the Tab S10 FE or the Tab S9, I think ultimately it really comes down to how much you want to spend. The main selling point of the Tab S9 would be the better performance and also the OLED display, but if you want to save money, this is actually a pretty good option. The drawing performance for the Samsung Galaxy tablets is actually more or less the same. So the main differences between all these tablets is really the extra features that you get. So for example, with the Tab S9 or S10, you get 120 Hz instead of 90 Hz on this display. You get an OLED display, you get better performance. I don't think you will be missing out if you buy this tablet instead of the Tab S9 or Tab S10, because this is still a really good tablet. And this year, or this new model, is a good improvement over the previous model in the sense that you can now buy this tablet with up to 12 gigs of RAM, whereas for the previous Tab S9 FE you can only get 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. So overall, I would say my drawing experience with this tablet is very positive. I mean, the lines are able to come out exactly the way I expect them to. I can draw very thin lines here. Very nice. Now this tablet, I would say, actually competes with the iPad Air instead of the base iPad, because this has a laminated display. The base iPad does not have a laminated display. And this has 90 Hz refresh rate. The iPad Air does not have 90 Hz refresh rate. The one thing I like about the iPad Air is there's anti-reflective coating. Yeah, so the anti-reflective coating is actually very effective when using the tablet outdoors or even indoors when there are reflections. But this tablet, this is very glossy and reflective. I don't like it. As long as you do not have any reflections on the display, it's fine. But when you have reflections on the display, well, the reflections can be quite distracting. But you can actually buy anti-reflective screen protector, the original one from Samsung, to apply over. Now, if you draw big illustrations often, then it would be better to get like a bigger display so that you can have more palettes by the side so that you can work more productively. But if you use, if the drawing apps you use actually do not have much user interface elements, a 10.9 inch is actually big enough. At least for me, 10.9 inch is still big enough. You can definitely create very precise illustrations with this app. If you're thinking of buying the iPad or iPad Air or any of the iPad models versus the Samsung, just know that there are many high quality and capable drawing apps available from the Google Play Store. The perspective is a bit off. And lastly, we shall add the shadows. The support structure should cast some shadows as well. So this is the completed sketch. Let's have a closer look. So the workflow is very predictable. There are no surprises. So I really enjoy drawing on this tablet. So this was drawn with the, well, same style. And here you can see diagonal lines, and there are no issues with diagonal line wobble. This one is a thinner line. There is some wobble, but it's due to my hand. And here are some quick sketches drawn with concepts. So my line art style is very simple. It's just, well, line art and flat colors, because it's very easy to draw, very fast to draw and color that way. I don't actually use that many layers for my drawings. You can actually write the name of the layer in the text box, or you can use the keyboard here. Battery life of this tablet is really good. I can get around 13 hours of battery life with auto brightness. But of course, battery life will vary depending on what you do with the tablet and the brightness of the tablet. Alright, to conclude, this tablet is great for drawing and also for note-taking, and the overall performance is smooth and lag-free. The main limitation here really is with gaming performance. Now, the main advantage that Samsung tablets have over other Android tablets for drawing is the S Pen performance is just more accurate and predictable. More specifically, tilt sensitivity works really well. With the pens from other brands or companies, for some reason, tilt doesn't always work. Yeah, so that's the main advantage that Samsung has. Tilt works really well with this pen. So if you want the best pen performance from an Android tablet, this is it. This is right there at the top.